My fiancée declared. Your family is smothering us. Choose me or them. I replied, done. Then I chose my brother and packed her things. Sent her a bill for her share of wedding costs. She was frantically messaging mutuals, claiming I misunderstood her ultimatum. The first time Vanessa called my brother Damien clingy, I laughed. I thought she was joking. Damien's 5 years younger than me, yeah, but we've always been close. Camping trips, fishing every Thanksgiving weekend with Dad, Sunday barbecues, that's how we grew up. That's who we are. My name's Julian. I'm 32, living in Eugene, Oregon. I work as a wildlife photographer, which means I'm out in the field a lot, climbing hills at dawn or waiting quietly for an owl shot. I met Vanessa 4 years ago at a local city planning event. She's 29, smart as hell, beautiful, works crazy hours as an urban planner. When we got engaged last fall, it felt like things were finally settling into place. The wedding was set for early summer, and I'd already covered most of the 20 grand in expenses. Vanessa had agreed to pay her half later, once a couple of her bonus checks cleared. I didn't mind fronting it. We were getting married, right? What's mine is hers and all that. But lately, things between us had shifted. It started small. Little comments. Damien would stop by after work, drop off some fresh elk jerky he'd made, or call during dinner to talk about a new trail he found. That's just how he is. But Vanessa's smiles turned thin. Her sighs got louder. One night, she paused mid-bite and said, "Does your brother not own a clock?" I blinked. What? He calls during dinner, like, every night. And last weekend, he showed up unannounced. Again, I tried to brush it off. He's just excited. He got the forestry gig. Big change for him. She rolled her eyes. You treat him like he's still a kid. He's what, 27? 26? I corrected. Whatever. It's like your family doesn't believe in boundaries. That stung, but I kept my mouth shut. I knew Vanessa came from a very different home. Her parents divorced when she was 10, she's estranged from her older brother, and her mom's the kind of woman who says things like, family is whoever pays for dinner. I figured she just didn't get it, but the tension kept building. One Friday night, Damien came by with a new camp stove he wanted to show me. I invited him to stay for a beer, like we always do. Vanessa didn't say anything at first, but when Damien left, she let loose. Every time I think we'll have a quiet evening together, your brother magically shows up. He didn't mean anything by it, I said. Julian, we're about to get married. I should be your priority, not him, not your dad, not the endless family group texts. I tried to make her laugh, lighten the mood. I guess if you didn't grow up with siblings like mine, maybe it's hard to understand. That did not land well. Her expression hardened. Well, so because I didn't have your perfect little camping family, I can't possibly understand closeness. That's not what I said. No, you just implied it. You basically said I don't get it. You think that's respectful? I didn't mean. I'm not your family's problem, Julian, but you're starting to feel like mine. That line sat between us for a long time, cold and heavy. I thought it would blow over, but it didn't. The comments kept coming. The digs about how I always answered Damien's calls. The sarcastic remarks when my mom asked us to host the next Sunday dinner. Even the way she said, we started to feel like it excluded my entire family. By the time April rolled around, it felt like we weren't planning a wedding anymore. We were planning an escape room. And the lock was me, and Damien, and everything she couldn't control. And deep down, I started to wonder if I'd ignored the signs for too long. The argument started before I even packed my gear. Damien had just gotten hired by the Forest Service, a huge deal, and our family planned a weekend camping trip in Willamette National Forest to celebrate. Just the siblings, Dad, and a couple of Damien's close friends from school. Vanessa was invited, of course. She'd come with us before. But this time, when I brought it up, she barely looked up from her laptop. "You're still going?" she asked flatly. "Yeah, we talked about it last week, remember? I said I'd be gone Friday to Sunday." She leaned back in her chair. "I thought you were kidding." "I wasn't." Vanessa closed the laptop slowly. "So your brother gets a government job and suddenly it's a family retreat?" "It's not sudden," I said, already feeling defensive. "Damien's been working toward this for years." She stared at me for a beat too long. "And you're really going? Leaving for 3 days when we're behind on wedding prep?" "I've already handled half the stuff on the checklist," I said. "You even said you needed this weekend to catch up on work." "That was before I realized you'd rather be out in the woods with your brother than building a future with your fiancée." That one cut. "That's not fair." Vanessa stood up, arms crossed. "No, what's not fair is how I've been pushed to the back seat in my own relationship. Your family gets your time, your energy, your loyalty. I get the leftovers." I took a breath, trying to keep calm. "This trip is 2 days. It's not about choosing." "No," she interrupted. "That's exactly what it's about." She stepped closer, eyes locked on mine. "I'm done competing with your family. Either you're with me or you're with them." I blinked. "What?" "You heard me. I need to know, Julian, right now, if I come first, if we come first, or if I'm always going to be second to Damien and the family barbecues." My mouth went dry. She was serious. I could have tried to talk her down, could have said she didn't mean it, that she was just frustrated, but something inside me clicked. Calmly, I said, "Done." Her expression faltered. "What?" "I'm choosing," I said. "You drew the line." I just stepped to my side of it. Her jaw dropped. "Julian, are you serious? I'm not going to cut out my family to make you feel better. I won't apologize for having people who love me." She stared at me like I'd slapped her. "You're making a huge mistake." "No, I said quietly. I think I'm finally making the right one. Without another word, I grabbed my bag, keys, and walked out. The cool air outside felt sharp against my skin. I didn't look back. By the time I pulled into Damien's driveway, the sun was setting. He came out to meet me, eyes wide when he saw my packed truck. "Everything okay?" he asked. I didn't hesitate. "The engagement's over." He didn't say anything, just nodded and pulled me into a hug. And just like that, I was home. Sunday morning, I sat at my dining table with a coffee in one hand and a legal pad in the other. The apartment was too quiet now. No rustling of Vanessa's heels, no echo of her typing on the couch, just the hum of the fridge and my pen scratching numbers. By the end of the hour, I had it all tallied. Venue deposit, catering, florals, her custom dress fittings, the down payment for the photographer, all the receipts, all the transactions, non-refundable or already fulfilled. It came to $20,350. I'd covered nearly all of it. We'd agreed to split the costs evenly from the start. Vanessa was supposed to reimburse me once her year-end bonus hit. But now that we weren't walking down any aisle, the time for delays was over. I drafted a short email, attached the breakdown, and kept it simple. "Hi Vanessa. Given the engagement is officially over, I've compiled the confirmed non-refundable wedding costs paid to date. Total paid, $20,350. Your half, $10,175. Please remit payment within 14 days to the account on file. Julian." I hit send and sat back. The first text came 5 minutes later. "Vanessa, are you serious?" Then another. "Vanessa, you're billing me like we're strangers?" I didn't reply, not because I was trying to be cold, but because I knew where this was going. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. I let it go to voicemail. She tried email next. Subject line, "This isn't who you are. Julian, I can't believe you're doing this. I was trying to have a real conversation with you, and you blew it all up. I never meant for us to break up. I just needed to feel heard. Now you're sending me invoices? Like I'm some contractor you're firing? You've completely misread the situation. Please call me. We need to talk. V." I sat there reading it over, stunned by how quickly she'd flipped the script. She gave me an ultimatum. I made a choice. And now somehow I was the unreasonable one. By noon, it escalated. First, a message from her mom, Denise. "Denise, I've always respected you, Julian, but this is disappointing. Vanessa is devastated. You don't throw away love over a disagreement." Then her sister Brielle. "Brielle, really mature. Billing my sister like she's a wedding planner. You're better than this. Or at least I thought you were." That evening, Damien texted me from the living room couch. "Damien, hey, so Brielle just messaged me on Insta. WTH. I sighed. "Block her," I replied. "It's not your problem." By Monday morning, I had messages from Vanessa's friends. Subtweets floating around calling me heartless. Her Instagram story was a carousel of old engagement photos, all captioned, "When you love someone too much and they don't love you enough." Classic pity parade. I didn't budge. I archived every message, blocked numbers, locked down my social media. This wasn't a conversation anymore. It was a transaction, and she owed me $10,175. By Tuesday, Vanessa had shifted into full PR mode. Long paragraphs on Instagram about healing, cryptic quotes about being blamed for things she didn't cause, and a close-up shot of her engagement ring sitting in a jewelry box with the caption, "Some stories end before they're written." I didn't say a word, but the people around us did. Mutual friends who'd been quiet suddenly started texting me. Some were polite. "Maya, hey, just checking in, saw the posts. Hope you're doing okay." Others weren't. "Brad, dude, you really gonna sue her over wedding bills? That's brutal." I kept the same answer for everyone. It was a mutual agreement. I'm just asking her to honor it. Still, every day brought something new. By the end of the week, Vanessa sent a massive email, nearly 1,000 words. Emotional, wounded, carefully constructed. "Julian, I don't even recognize who you are anymore. I never thought you would turn your back on me so fast. I was overwhelmed. I felt like I was drowning, and instead of helping, you just left. Yes, I said some things I regret, but you didn't even try to fight for us. You just walked out and sent me a bill. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? Please, don't take this any further. This isn't you." I read it twice, then saved it to my legal folder, because this wasn't just emotional flailing anymore. This was a strategy. By week 2, her mother Denise escalated. She emailed my workplace, claimed I was struggling emotionally and possibly unstable following a recent broken engagement, said she was deeply concerned about my mental state and that my work environment might be contributing. It went straight to my boss's inbox. Luckily, Dave's been my editor for 5 years. He called me into his office, laughed once, and said, "Just letting you know, I archived it under harassment. Also, good on you for blocking her." Jesus. I left work that day with one goal, end this. Clean, legal, final. Back at my apartment, I sat down and went through every file. I compiled the email where Vanessa explicitly agreed to cover half of the wedding costs. I saved screenshots of her messages. I documented all payment receipts, attached vendor contracts, and detailed the amounts I'd paid. Then I opened the state's small claims court website, filed the paperwork. $10,175 plus a $75 filing fee. I included her full name, current address, and attached the required proof. Once it was confirmed, I emailed her again. Vanessa, you missed the 14-day deadline. I have filed a small claims suit for the agreed-upon amount, plus court costs. Attached is a copy of the case confirmation. You'll receive official notice by mail. Julian. 10 minutes later, she called. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened Instagram. Her latest post was a selfie in oversized sunglasses, a latte in one hand, captioned, "Trying to stay strong when the world doesn't make sense anymore." Dozens of comments gushing support. She was building a narrative. Fine. I was building a case. Let her cry to the internet. Let her spin stories. Let her family send letters and make calls and stalk my LinkedIn. I wasn't here to win sympathy. I was here to win in court. The following Thursday, Vanessa emailed me about picking up her things. I'll come by sometime this weekend and go through everything. I'll need space and time to sort what's mine. Please don't pack anything. I need to handle this my way. I read it twice, then hit delete. There was no way I was letting her wander around my apartment like we were still in a relationship. I'd already boxed everything. Clothes, books, toiletries, framed photos, her favorite mug, even the ridiculous $300 candle she said smelled like an old Parisian bakery. All of it, neatly packed and labeled, waiting by the door. I sent back a short reply. Pickup window is Saturday at 2 p.m. Items will be outside. One trip only. No response. Saturday rolled around, and I was ready. I stacked the boxes on the porch, double-checked each one. Nothing of hers remained in my space, not even a rogue bobby pin in the bathroom. At 1:58, I got a text. Brielle, I'm here. Of course. I looked out the front window and saw her silver SUV pull up. She stepped out in oversized sunglasses, lips pursed, arms crossed like she was preparing for war. She didn't even glance toward the door. She walked to the boxes in silence, opened the trunk, and began loading them with mechanical efficiency. No hello, no questions, just heavy thuds of cardboard on metal. I stood behind the curtain, arms crossed. Damien was on the couch behind me, quietly eating trail mix. She sent her sister? He asked. Yup, she really doesn't want to face you. Apparently. When the last box was loaded, Brielle slammed the trunk shut, shot one glare toward the window, like she could feel me watching, and drove off without a word. 10 minutes later, the email started. Vanessa, you stole my jewelry. Vanessa, why did you pack my things without my permission? That's so controlling. Vanessa, where's the cashmere coat I left in the closet? If it's missing, that's theft. I didn't answer. I archived every message. For a moment, I hovered over the reply button, but I knew better. Anything I said would become more fuel for her. This wasn't about a coat. This was about control. I forwarded all 3 emails to my legal folder and went back to my day. Later that evening, Damien tossed me a beer and said, for what it's worth, you probably dodged a bullet the size of a truck. He wasn't wrong. Vanessa didn't want closure. She wanted chaos. And I was done opening the door. The court date was still 3 weeks out, but the pressure campaign started almost immediately. Monday morning, I got a letter from a lawyer representing Vanessa. Not a firm, just some solo family attorney she must have found online. Probably cheap. The letter was short, but laughable. Our client is willing to resolve this matter amicably for the sum of $2,000. She also requests a formal apology in writing for any emotional harm caused by your abrupt termination of the engagement. I read it twice, then slid the letter across the table to Damien. He raised an eyebrow. $2,000? And an apology? I shrugged. Apparently, she thinks court is optional. I drafted a response and sent it the next day, straight to her lawyer's inbox. Declined. Full amount stands. $10,175 plus court filing fees. No apology forthcoming. See you in court. The silence after that was brief, just long enough for her to regroup. By the weekend, the mutual friends started to disappear. People I'd known for years stopped liking my photos, stopped commenting on posts. I got removed from a group chat we'd used to plan camping trips and birthdays. No warning. Just gone. Fine. Better to know who was actually in my corner. Then her aunt, Denise's older sister, a woman I'd spoken to maybe twice in 4 years, messaged my mom on Facebook. A long, emotional plea full of concern. Please talk to Julian. Vanessa's not eating. She's in such a fragile emotional state. She doesn't deserve this public humiliation. She's planning a spa weekend to help her recover. She just needs time, not punishment. A spa weekend. Paid for, no doubt, by the same broke woman who said she couldn't afford to reimburse me for wedding expenses. I screenshot the message, sent it to my own email, labeled it under evidence. At this point, the manipulations were piling up like dirty laundry. I'd stopped reading most of the messages. They all followed the same formula. Vanessa, this isn't you. Vanessa's mom, you're being cruel. Vanessa's friend, she's heartbroken. Can't you show some grace? No, I'd shown grace. I'd shown patience, compromise, restraint. Now I was showing receipts. I made copies of everything: text logs, emails, the initial cost breakdown, her acknowledgement of the shared expenses. I even printed the spa trip Instagram story Vanessa had casually posted the day before, restoring my peace #selfcare #deserve. In the caption, she tagged the hotel, the Black Pine Spa and Lodge, 2 nights minimum, $800 per night. Damien leaned over when I showed him. She's really trying to cry poor while soaking in a hot tub and drinking champagne? Yup, he chuckled. She's gonna have a rough time explaining that in front of a judge. I nodded, because court wasn't just coming anymore. It was on the calendar, and I'd never been more ready. The courthouse was smaller than I expected. No grand marble pillars or towering ceilings, just linoleum floors, vending machines in the lobby, and a front desk clerk who looked bored out of his mind. I arrived 15 minutes early, dressed in a button-down and slacks, neat, neutral, not flashy. Damien came with me, sat quietly in the back row. I just want to see her face when the judge starts reading your paperwork, he whispered. I gave a half smile. Let's just get through it. At 9:02 a.m., Vanessa walked in, hair perfectly straightened, beige trench coat, makeup a little too polished for a morning hearing. She sat at the opposite table with her lawyer, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. They barely spoke. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, entered the room and nodded for us to begin. I spoke first. I kept it simple, professional. I showed the signed agreement from our wedding planner that listed both our names. I handed over my itemized spreadsheet with every deposit and invoice. Then the text thread from Vanessa saying, "I'll pay my half once my bonus hits, just hang tight." The judge flipped through the pages, nodding slowly. "Clear and organized," she said. "Thank you." Vanessa's lawyer stood, cleared his throat like he was trying to summon courage. "Your Honor, my client contends that this was an emotional misunderstanding. She believed these costs were a gift, not a contractual obligation. Furthermore, she has suffered considerable distress due to the abrupt nature of the breakup." The judge squinted at him. "Distress does not void financial agreements." Then she turned to Vanessa. "Ms. Franklin, did you or did you not agree to split wedding costs?" Vanessa's voice was quiet. "We talked about it, but I never signed anything." "You acknowledged the breakdown in writing," I said. "Multiple times." Vanessa shook her head. "I was emotional. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I thought we were still going to work things out." "So," the judge said, "when you told Mr. Rhodes to choose between you and his family, was that also a misunderstanding?" Vanessa looked up, startled. I didn't mean it like that." I calmly slid a printed screenshot forward, the text message where she said, "Either you're with me or you're with them. Make a choice." The judge read it, then looked back at Vanessa. "You issued a clear ultimatum," she said flatly. "He made a decision. You ended the engagement, and now you're refusing to share costs you already agreed to. That's not how this works." Vanessa's lawyer muttered something, but she waved him off. Then I handed in one final page. A printout of Vanessa's spa weekend post, tag location, visible dates, champagne glass in hand. "Miss Franklin claims financial hardship," I said. "She's currently planning a luxury retreat while refusing to repay her agreed share." The judge's jaw tightened. "All right," she said. "Enough." She adjusted her glasses and picked up her pen. "Judgment in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant, Ms. Franklin, is ordered to repay $10,175 in full, plus court filing fees, a total of $10,325. Payment due within 30 days. If unpaid, wage garnishment will be pursued." Vanessa's face dropped. She opened her mouth like she was about to protest, but nothing came out, just a stunned breath. Her lawyer stared down at the table. Damien texted me from the back row. "Damien, and that's game." Outside, the sun had come out. I walked down the courthouse steps slowly, breathing it in. Vanessa and her lawyer stayed behind. No final words. No dramatic exit. Just silence. And the sound of me winning. After the verdict, it was like someone flipped a switch. No more texts. No more emails. No phone calls from Vanessa, her mother, or Brielle. The Instagram sob stories vanished. Her spa content dried up. Mutual friends who'd previously tiptoed around the situation suddenly remembered they had lives elsewhere. She went quiet. Not out of grace, out of defeat. I didn't gloat. I didn't post anything. I didn't even tell most people what happened in court. Those who mattered already knew. Damien and I drove back from the courthouse that day without saying much. He cranked the windows down, let the wind drown out our thoughts. That night, we had dinner at our parents' place. Simple stuff: grilled trout, roasted potatoes, a pitcher of sun tea sweating on the counter. The air smelled like pine and smoke, and for the first time in weeks, I felt normal again. After dinner, Damien handed me a small box wrapped in canvas. "Little something I made," he said. Inside was a handmade leather case. Black, stitched with dark red thread, fitted perfectly for my camera and lenses. I turned it over in my hands, speechless. "Thanks for sticking by us," he said. "Thanks for not folding." I swallowed hard. Didn't feel brave half the time. Didn't need to. Just had to be honest. I looked around the room, my dad dozing in his recliner, Mom humming while she packed up leftovers, Damien flipping through a field guide like it was the most interesting book on earth. No noise, no posturing, no blame, just family, the kind that shows up and stays. Later that night, I sat out on my porch with a beer in one hand and the court paperwork in the other. I wasn't waiting for Vanessa to pay. I wasn't checking the mail. If she paid, great. If not, the wage garnishment order was already filed. The real win had nothing to do with the check. The real win was knowing that when someone handed me an ultimatum, I didn't flinch. I didn't chase. I didn't beg. I just walked and meant it. Vanessa thought she could bend the truth, rewrite history, weaponize tears. But in the end, it wasn't me who buried the relationship. It was her words, her line in the sand. She mistook control for strength. But strength isn't yelling. It isn't demanding. Strength is walking away and letting the silence speak for you. And now, with nothing left to prove, I could finally breathe. Whether she paid or not, didn't matter. I'd already collected everything I needed.